Hi, good morning, drivers. I can give you, we go up to the front counter. We got lots of scratch paper. They'll have something for you up there.
Will you grab me a sheet? Thank you.
Okay, so we are here on a Wednesday morning to discuss preparing you for your road test. The majority of you don't have a test scheduled yet, do you?
Nope.
Okay. But you're working on your backing, you're working on your shifting. Okay, all right. And that's going well, so you're probably pretty close to getting that scheduled. Now, how many of you would like to pass your road test the first time? Everybody's hand just went up. How many of you are willing to spend the time and effort to make that happen? Okay, I would like that to be true. The state of Minnesota makes this testing process intentionally difficult. You have to understand the way this testing process works. It is not a practical approach to driving truck. The state of Minnesota is not using truck drivers to conduct the test. Now think about how stupid that is. Someone that's never driven a truck, doesn't know how to drive a truck, doesn't have a license to drive a truck, is going to sit in a truck and tell you if you know how to drive the truck. Does that make any sense whatsoever? So why is that the case? Because it's cheaper than hiring a truck driver. When you get your license and go out there and get some experience, you are going to be a $50,000 a year employee at the minimum. Minimum. Okay? Once you got 2 years experience, you're not going to take a job that pays less than that. Nothing less than 25 bucks an hour. These examiners are being hired at $12, $13, $14 an hour. So that's why this is occurring. It's that the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Driver and Vehicle Services Division has a mindset that cheaper is better. I don't believe in that concept, especially when it comes to a safety-related issue. My wife drives a safe car. I've got a full set of winter tires for her, okay? When the kids were at home, same thing there. I had rules as to what they could drive. It had to meet a certain standard. I remember years ago, my oldest wanted some help buying a car, and I says, okay, well, you know, it's got to be a decent-sized, safe car. And he came home one day and said, I figured out what I want. I said, what's that? Dodge Omni, he says. I go, that's too small. And he was pretty upset with me. You told me you'd help me. Yeah, but I told you what the parameters were. Oh, no, go find something bigger. And he did, okay? And I had, for all 3 kids, I had a set of winter tires on wheels. That's about $1,000 bucks. Now that $1,000 was an investment. That didn't cost me money. What did it do? It saved me money, okay? Because now we're avoiding collisions. We're keeping our insurance rates manageable. So when it comes to a safety-related issue, I'm going to spend what it takes to do it right. I've got a $10,000 electronic gate out here. You've seen the gate that goes back and forth out here, right? Good morning. Why would we spend $10,000 on it? To make sure that when you all are out there practicing in the backing area, that nobody can get in your way, to keep things safe. You know, it just makes sense if it's a safety-related issue to spend the money to do it the right way. So that's my frustration and argument with the way the Minnesota Department of Public Safety is going about this. The organization we belong to, the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, we're trying to convince the federal government to require the states to use truck drivers. It's not safe, it's not fair, and the way they go about this, there's so many problems they've had. There's one area on the test that they used to take trucks. They stopped taking them there because there were so many collisions. And the interesting thing is the trucks that were having the collisions there were the state college trucks. Not ours, but the state college trucks, okay? And so the people at Department of Public Safety got frustrated because you can't sue a state agency to pay for something damage to a state agency. Okay, so they were doing it to themselves. So their solution was, well, let's not go there anymore. Okay, I'd like to think that our students are trained better than the competition, but here's one huge distinction and difference between Interstate Truck Driving School and any other truck driving school in the state of Minnesota. There are several, but one of them is we have a break over on the instructor's side of the truck. No other school does that. Now, those brakes cost us money, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a truck, depending upon what the configuration is. Again, does it cost us money? I look at it as an investment that saves us money. So not only can the instructor step on the brake, but an examiner could do the same thing. The examiner, if he feels that the truck is being operated in such a way it's not safe, the instructor can literally put the brake on. Okay, so that's our perspective here at Interstate Truck Driving School, is to analyze risk, come up with solutions, make investments that pay off. Now, the state of Minnesota has a different attitude. The state of Minnesota has an attitude of, well, let's do this as cheap as we can and make it as difficult as possible. That's their attitude. Do it as cheap as they can and make it difficult on purpose to make up for the fact that they're not doing it the right way. Okay? Now, you want to pass this test, right? You can do that. I'm going to promise you that every single person in this room, every single person watching this on tape, you can pass this the first time if you spend the time and effort to prepare for it. Okay? This is about preparation. The skills you need to pass this test, first of all, the inspection. That is the first part of your testing process, is the pre-trip inspection test, which is the primary focus of what we do on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We are also going to discuss the driving part of it, and I'll explain that in a minute as to when we get to that. So you need these inspection skills. Then, in order to drive the truck properly and safely to pass the test, you need to be able to drive safely. That's not too difficult for most people. We have a few people that come, I'd say 10% of our customers aren't driving safely enough. And so we have to coach them and get them to drive in a way that's safe enough. In other words, people that aren't paying enough attention to signs, or they're not paying enough attention to their lane usage. They're not responding properly to traffic lights. They're not waiting for traffic that they're supposed to yield to. We have students that do that. They'll be at a stop sign and they try to pull out in front of somebody that they shouldn't be pulling out in front of. And something you got to understand here, okay? There's a transition that you need to make from driving this to driving this. And some people struggle with that transition. They try to drive this like they're driving that. And it ain't going to work, okay? Now, that's the least of our problems. We do have some people that struggle with that, but that's the least of our problems in getting people ready to pass the test. The other three parts of the driving process that you need to learn is how to make right and left-hand turns without knocking anything down with the trailer, or in terms of Class B, without the back of the truck. You're driving something longer. You're used to driving something that's 14, 15, 16 feet long. And now with a Class B truck, you're driving something that's about 30 feet long. And with the Class A, you're driving something that's 44, 45 feet long. So it takes a little while to learn that. Most people pick that up pretty quickly. There are people that struggle with it, but most people pick that up pretty quickly. So we got two more skills that you have to learn: how to back up a trailer. And here again, people pick that up at a different rate. Some people pick it up quicker than others. Some people have previous experience with trailers, some don't. So everybody's different in terms of how long it takes to pick up that skill. That's what the simulators are for. That's what the backing range is for. And then the third skill, the last but not least, for those of you doing a manual transmission, is learning how to shift properly to pass the test. Now, how many of you already know how to shift a car pickup truck? Raise your hands. Okay? So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you that already know how to shift. Okay? Let me guarantee you something. None of you know how to shift properly to pass the test yet. Because what you don't know is what the examiner expects you to do. Keep in mind, this examiner is not a truck driver. The normal way of shifting is not acceptable to pass the test. You will fail the test if you shift the way you have learned to shift. Okay? There's part of the process that you have to learn to do, and we're going to teach you that. Okay? But sometimes it's really frustrating when we get people to come in here that tell us, I already know how to do this. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. I've driven truck. That doesn't mean you know how to pass a test. Now, people struggle with that concept. I know how to drive a truck, so I should be able to pass a test. Okay? In a perfect world, that would happen. This is Minnesota. This isn't a perfect world. This is the state of Minnesota, where you're being examined by a clerk that doesn't know how to drive a truck. Now, if one of you becomes governor, appoint me public safety commissioner, and I'll fix this. Okay? I'll go kick some butt, and I'll change things. And I'll tell you what, I won't be very popular. And you're going to take a lot of heat from a lot of people hiring me. Okay? And one of the organizations that's going to get pretty darn upset is the union. And the interesting thing is a very good friend of mine was the president of that union for several years. And we have some interesting conversations. And the union management wouldn't have too much trouble with what I'd want to do, but the union rank and file would, okay? Because I'd make them step up to the plate. Anyway, and the brass downtown would have a hissy fit over it. Because let's say that they took their employees, trained them to be truck drivers, so now they do have a commercial license. Now they'd have a hard time what? Keeping them. Because now they'd go off someplace else and make more money, see? So they'd have to increase the pay. And tell legislators downtown we're going to charge, they're going to cost them more money, and what do? Have a hissy fit over it, okay? All right. You can pass this test, people. Any and every single one of you. I don't care what your background is. I don't care how much you know or don't know about driving trucks. I don't care how much you know or don't know about the mechanical part of it. I don't care whether English is your first or your second language. I don't care. If you study and work, you can pass this the first time. Now, you have to come in here with an open mind. This is Interstate Truck Driving School. What's a school? And so the people that come in here that think they already know how to do this stuff and don't pay attention and listen and follow our instructions, they don't pass the test. That's the problem here, is that we have people with an attitude of, I already know all this stuff. I ain't listening to what you got to tell me. I'm not going to do all that work because I already know. No, you don't. And then, of course, when they fail the test, who do they blame?
You.
No. Well, might blame us, but mostly the state. Okay? But to a degree, they blame us, yeah. But they don't take responsibility for it themselves, is my point, okay? We have tools here. We have an infrastructure here. We have resources here for you to utilize to be successful. My staff and I are here because we love doing this. We love helping people with this process, okay? Can you imagine how rewarding it is? We've worked with people. I've had students that are living in a homeless shelter, taking a bus to school here, ending up with jobs that pay them $65,000 a year. How rewarding is that to be a part of that process? I mean, that's pretty much a feel-good deal, isn't it? Okay? I run into people all over the place. I had a truck on display at the fair for one day this year. I had a gentleman, huh?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just for one day. It's pretty expensive.
Oh.
But a gentleman, he's working for DLI, and he walked up to me and shook my hand. And he says, I just want you to know you changed my life. And my response was, well, thank you. I appreciate hearing that. But all I did was assist you because you're the one that changed your life. Okay? You can lead a horse to water, but can't make him drink. Okay? I see people here that put in a ton of effort, and I have nothing but admiration and respect for those people. There are people that really take this seriously and just jump in with both feet, and they work and they work and they work, and they're successful. And then there's people that aren't invested in it. You know, I mentioned to some of you the other day, we've got a young man whose dad wants him to get his license. And he took his first test here 10 days ago, failed it. We haven't heard from him since. Haven't seen him, haven't heard from him. Okay? And he failed the inspection part. He's also a Wisconsin resident, so he didn't get to go on past that. Where should he be?
Here.
It's Wednesday morning at 8:15. He should be in this room right now. He failed his pre-trip inspection. And he should be sitting right next to one of you right now. And he's not here. Okay? Well, he's not invested. It's his dad who wants him to do it, not him. And we run into that pretty frequently, to be honest with you. Parents and sometimes grandparents paying for training, hoping that junior is going to get it and, you know, turn it into an opportunity. We have had people that have been successful doing that. But we've got a young man whose mom paid for it a little bit ago, and he's now working for Coca-Cola. So he went from a $9.50 an hour job to a $65,000 a year job. That's huge. I mean, that's more than 3 times the income, okay? And now he's not living at home anymore, so mom's real happy. There's work to this. The state of Minnesota has set this up to make it difficult on purpose. And they're proud of it. They think that makes them look good. Well, not to me, but maybe to somebody else. That, yeah, we're doing this real cheap. Isn't that good? I don't agree. Be that as it may, we have all the resources it takes for you to pass this test. We have 3 people working here that are former examiners that used to give this test. The manual that the state gives the examiners to conduct the test, I have a copy of that in my desk. And anybody downtown listening right now is going, oh my God, you shouldn't have that. Well, the internet gives you access to a lot of stuff, okay? So, I know exactly what you're supposed to do to pass this test. I know exactly what you're not supposed to do to pass this test, okay? All right. Let's talk about the lesson plan for today. This is a 2 Wednesday lesson plan. You absolutely need to come to the Wednesday class twice, not just once, twice, okay? And we are going to split you up at 9 o'clock. The first hour, you're all in here. But at 9 o'clock, we're going to split the group up. And we're going to take the people who have been here on a previous Wednesday, and they're going outside. And those of you that are here on your first Wednesday are staying in here. So the lesson plan is, if this is your first time attendance on a Wednesday, you stay in this room until 1 o'clock. You will then be going outside in the snow between 1 and 3. Good morning. Yep. Hope you wore your boots. Now, there's no lunch break. However, there's a video between 11:30 and 12:30. So those of you who are here on a Wednesday for the first time, there will be a break from 11:15 to 11:30. That is a 15-minute opportunity for you to run and grab something at Quick Trip, Subway, or Burger King if you didn't bring something with you in a cooler. And then bring that meal back into this room and have your lunch in this room during the video between 11:30 and 12:30. Okay? Those of you who are attending a Wednesday for a second time, we are going to have you go outside and work with the instructors between 9 and 1. And then at 1 o'clock, we need you to return to this room. During that time, between 1 and 4 actually, we have a discussion on the driving portion of the test. So, as an example, how you're supposed to shift, how you're supposed to make your right and left-hand turns, how you're supposed to make all of your maneuvers, the backing, the straight back, the alley dock. We're going to discuss all of that on your second Wednesday between 1 and 4. Okay? Now, if your schedule is such that you can't be here for any reason, we can accommodate that. That's one of the reasons that I videotape these classes quite frequently. I'm videotaping right now. So if somebody called up and said, I missed class this morning, we can put it up on YouTube for them and they can watch it from home, okay? So we do this on a regular basis to keep it up to date. So that's always available to you also, right? The hands-on outside, obviously you can't do remotely. So what you're doing out in the yard needs to be done on site, okay? We're going to accommodate your schedule best we can, but you got to spend some time here. I know you have lives, you're adults. That means you got other things going on in your lives, other responsibilities, other priorities. Make this a priority. And if you can't make this a priority, you know what you might want to do? Suspend your training until you can make it a priority. If you're doing this part-time, it takes a considerable longer amount of time. I've got another gentleman, incidentally, that's not in this room right now. He started last week and he wants to get done as quick as possible. And I barely see the guy. Okay? And, you know, he's one of those people that says, yeah, I want to get your 160-hour program done in 2 weeks. Think about that. I want to get your 160-hour program done in 2 weeks. Oh, and I can't be here every day. Okay. So 2 plus 2 is 9, right? I mean, the guy just can't add up simple numbers. So you got to work with us here. You got to spend some time at this. It's worth your time. What you're going to get out of your time here is a huge return on your investment. I can't think of a better way to spend your time in terms of the dollar return to it. The 160 to 200 hours one might spend here is going to pay off dividends as long as you stay healthy for the rest of your life. And it's always a fallback too, okay? If something goes on where you need to fall back on something, this job is there for you. Now, the inspection is the primary focus that we're working on. Your first day here, that's all we're going to talk about is the inspection. Again, on your second Wednesday, then we're going to get into the driving for you. What I've got on the screen is cut and pasted out of the state manual. What I have highlighted says, during the pre-trip inspection, you must point out each item to the examiner and explain what problems you would look for on a cold vehicle. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a verbal oral exam. Now, how common are oral exams? Have any of you even taken an oral exam? Anybody? One person. And what was that for? Okay. All right. Anything else? For what?
EMT and paramedic.
Okay. So that's a unique type of position and training. Have you?
Yeah, for my citizenship.
Okay. And congratulations to you for that. Okay. So the point is, there's, other than the road test stuff, there's 2 people out of 20 that have ever taken an oral exam. That shows you how rare this is, okay? But that's the way it's done. If I were in charge of this testing process, it wouldn't be an oral exam. And the other part of this that I struggle with is you're going to walk up to a perfectly good truck that has nothing wrong with it and explain in English to somebody that doesn't know how to drive a truck what the manual says you're supposed to check. So what you have to do to pass the test is memorize a section of the manual and be able to verbalize that. Okay? If I were in charge of this process, I'd have a single CDL testing facility in the state. Of course, people would complain about that. You gotta drive all that way. I get a kick out of people who will call up sometimes. Yeah, I'm interested in going to your school, but I live all the way down in Owatonna. I don't want to drive that far. What kind of truck driver are you going to be? I don't want to drive that far. Come on. I've driven to Kansas City and back for lunch, people. For lunch. Now, it was an important lunch, but I've driven to Kansas City and back in the same day. Okay? I'm a wheelman. I'm a driver. I'll wherever you want me to go. Okay? So I'd have this one CDL testing facility. I'd have 10 trucks in a shed. They'd all be same make, model, color. I'd move them around, put magnetic numbers on them, so I'd play a shell game so one person couldn't tell another person which truck was which. And between my 10 trucks, I'd have 100 defects. I'd have a truck with the front tires with the tread depth less than 430 seconds. I'd have a truck with brake linings less than brake linings less than a quarter inch. I'd have brake linings that have
Fries, tears.
cracks in them. I'd have brake linings that have what on them? Grease, okay, some sort of fluid on them. I'd have 100 defects. I would expect you to point out 80% of them defects, and as soon as you do that, you're done past my test, because that's what your job is. So my test would be to see if you know how to do your job. Okay? That's not the way this is done, as I showed you on the screen. Your job is to point out each item. You'll have a checklist to do that. And explain to the examiner what problems you're checking for in a cold vehicle. And everything and anything that you have to explain comes out of the manual. The statement goes on to say you must mention the main points in order to get credit. And then it says that you are not required to get underneath the vehicle and check fluids. You are not doing an inspection, people. You are explaining how to do an inspection. Okay? This is the checklist that you're going to use on your test. That checklist is in your workbook. If you take your air brake workbook, open it up, in the front insert, you'll find this generic checklist from the state of Minnesota. You will use one of those for your test. It will be given to you when you arrive to check in for your test. It'll be given to you by the state of Minnesota. The one you have now is for practice purposes. You are not allowed to use one that is prepared in any way when you show up. So you can't have a checklist that has notes on it. Only the checklist from the state of Minnesota. The other checklist in your workbook there is a practice version. That's the one with our logo on it. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay? So the way this inspection test is done is using this checklist. Now, you must be proficient enough to complete the inspection in 40 minutes. The entire testing process with the inspection and the driving, they allocate 90 minutes for that. There are 3 segments to the complete road test: the inspection, the backing maneuvers, and driving out on the road, on the freeways. The road driving is a route that takes about 20 minutes, approximately 30 minutes allocated for the backing maneuvers. Thus, the inspection needs to be done in about 40 minutes. If you can't do the inspection in 40 minutes, the test will be suspended. You will not complete it. You will not be allowed to continue. Okay? Antoine, you're doing a Class B. Yours is a little quicker. Okay? You've got less to inspect. Do I have any other Class B drivers in the room?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're doing Class B, the testing process is quicker, both the inspection and the driving. Okay? So it's a little easier for someone that's doing a Class B to achieve this result. You Class A drivers, it's going to take a little bit more work, okay, because they give you 40 minutes. Now, you need to pass this inspection, you need to be able to point out each item on this list. So you need to learn what these things are and where they are. If you have no mechanical previous experience, this is going to take you some time to learn that. If you have previous mechanical experience, that'll speed up your learning curve. But you still need to know what to say, and what you say is based on what's in the manual. One of the things that's not acceptable, it's not acceptable for you to point to a component and say it's okay. Saying something is okay is not okay, okay? Okay? Okay. See, saying it's okay doesn't explain what problems you would look for. Do you see what they're saying in the manual? What problems are you looking for? You have to tell them that. What problems you're looking
So you
for.
have to say specific how they say in the manual?
They have
Yes, you have to
yeah, they
use
have
the.
a specific translation they like you to say.
Well, okay. So the let's as an example here. Let's go to the manual and look for as an example of what you're supposed to say. Okay. So I'll go to mindriveinfo.org. Why did the Minnesota Vikings come up? That's not what I wanted.
Like headlights not cracked, damaged, or broken.
And with headlights that they're illuminated.
Yes.
So what you need to say to the examiner is based on what it says in the manual in section 10. Section 10 is the pre-trip inspection material, okay? The part of section 2 that talks about the inspection is also fair game. But section 10, what section 10 is, it goes over each item that you're supposed to check, okay? So as an example, it says oil level. Indicate where the dipstick is located. See that the oil level is in safe operating range. Level must be above the refill mark. So somehow or another, you need to convey to the examiner that you're checking to see that this mark on the dipstick, the oil is above that. Now use any words you want to explain that. And don't hesitate to use words like whatchamacallit, thingamajig, doohickey. That's okay, all right? But you got to convey the information. And the information that you have to convey is the information that's in the manual. Now, some people have this concept, well, you got to learn these key words. Okay, fine. Walk up to a tire and say it's not rusted or cracked or broken. Does that make any sense? My tire's not rusted, cracked, or broken? No, you don't learn keywords. You learn what you're talking about, okay? So, you have a checklist. You need to point to the components. Then you need to explain to the examiner what you're supposed to say. Now, we have a tool for you to use to prepare yourself for that. And that tool are flashcards.
Just saying in my head.
Were you?
Yes.
Well, then I'll give you the flashcards first. How's that?
Thank you.
Now, this is my favorite part because I get to toss flashcards. You ready?
I was just thinking, like, I'm gonna need some.
Yep. Come on in, play your role. Oh. Ready? The good news is none of
You
you
have to make
coffee
sure
in
you
that.
have hand-eye coordination.
Oh. You got some? You got yours. Ready? Good catch. You got yours. Okay. Think of that. Yep. Here's what you're going to do, okay? You're going to take each item on the checklist. Now, this is where the practice version comes into play, okay? There's two checklists in your workbook. One is the generic one from the state. I'll talk about that in more detail. The one with our logo on it is condensed. See, this is generic and covers Class A, Class B. It covers buses. It covers bumper hitches, fifth wheel connections. So it is a generic checklist with stuff that doesn't apply to you. So what we've done to assist you, there is a second checklist in the inside front insert of your workbook. Has our logo on it. Okay, not that one. That's the wrong book. Your You're in the wrong book.
Oh, in the total wrong book.
Yeah. So put that 3-ring binder away. What you're looking
And
for
I'm
is the
looking
red or
for
blue
is
one.
in the
There
red
you
book.
go. That's what we want. Okay.
Okay, here.
That one you had out, I should put big letters on it, not for use on your road test. But anyway, so this is the one I'm talking about. Everybody got this?
Yep.
All right. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take each item on this checklist, and on one side you're gonna put each one of these items. So you're gonna go through and you're gonna put oil level. You're gonna put coolant level. You're gonna put power steering fluid, you're going to put water pump, you're going to put each item on that checklist on one side of a flashcard. All right? Then you're going to use your workbook to complete your flashcards. The workbook goes through each of those items and gives you pictures and descriptions. But to complete your flashcards, if you look in the back insert of your workbook, there are a few pages stapled together. The back insert of your workbook. The stapled pages I'm going to refer to as your script. With this script, you're going to complete the back side of each flashcard. So your flashcards, on one side it's going to have the component off the checklist, and on the back side it's going to have what is written in here. Once you have these prepared, at what reading grade level would you need someone to be to help you with your flashcards?
First grade.
Third or fourth grade, anyway,
grade.
right?
If they can read.
If they can read, okay? Now, we're going to initiate a policy here, and Pat has joined me to support me in this. You want to explain the policy? Okay, you schedule everything through Pat, right? When it's time for you to schedule your road test, Pat's going to say, where's your flashcards? Guess what he's going to do if you don't have flashcards?
Cancel?
We're not scheduling your road test. Now,
Good luck.
if we get a customer that goes, well, I paid for the dang thing, I want to take the road test. Okay, fine. Go ahead. We'll schedule your road test. If you fail, $600 for retest. $600. Let me ask you something. When you go out to take this road test in our truck, there's a instructor behind the wheel that got that truck out there and spent some time with you to get you ready for your test. That instructor costs me, with labor, burdens, taxes, and benefits and everything, somewhere north of 60 grand a year. Okay? The trucks, what do you suppose it costs to insure these trucks?
A lot.
Maintain them.
A lot.
How much of my fuel bill?
Oh,
My fuel bill is pushing $1,000 a week here.
Yeah.
How much do you spend on gas? I spend $1,000 a week on it.
for
865.
not complaining, huh?
Now, is it fair for someone to not do the work to prepare for this thing and expect me to give them access to another test for free?
No.
It just ain't fair, people. Okay? Why should I bust my butt for somebody that won't bust their butt? Now, you prepare these flashcards. You show up for class. You do the work. You fail the test, we won't charge you for a retest. But Pat's going to ask you for them flashcards when you go to schedule your road test. Let me see your flashcards. We are going to be hounding you about this constantly around here. You're sitting out in the lobby playing on your smartphone. You know what I'm going to ask you? Where's your flashcards? We're going to harass you. We're going to give you a hard time here, okay? We're going to teach you with tough love. Because I tell you what, if you learn this stuff, you'll pass the test. Okay? If you don't put the time and effort into it, you ain't going to pass the test. Pat and I are passionate, along with everybody else here, about doing everything we can to assist you to pass this test. Again, this is a competition to us. We're the good guys, and we're trying to defeat the enemy. The enemy is the state of Minnesota. Okay? One of the things that just has driven my blood pressure sky high is so many times over the years I've heard an examiner get out of a truck after a test and say, "Well, Bill, your guy drove pretty good. I'm sure he'll pass next time, but he didn't make it today." And my thought is, give him his damn license, dude. "Yeah, he's a good driver. I'm sure he'll pass next time." Well, what are you making him wait for then? What is the logic? What is the rationale? Show me some data that says he's a better, safer driver by forcing him or her to wait 2 or 3 weeks to make a living and put bread on the table and pay for the mortgage. Show me where that makes sense. And if you can prove that to me, I'll support you 100%. But in the meantime, I think what you're doing is a bunch of hooey. I think it's an abuse of your authority to make people wait to earn a living. Let me give you an example of their priorities being upside down and backwards here. Okay, here's one of the problem with you failing the test is not only is there an expense to get you back out there, but we're not going to be able to do it right away. Pat, what's the turnaround? How quick can you get somebody back out there for a test?
Wait.
5 weeks. That's how far the state is. Somebody brought in a road test from the state yesterday for their retest. They got a test in their name, and it was December 2nd, I think.
So that's 4 weeks.
Well,
4 weeks.
4.5 weeks.
Yep. Now, if the state of Minnesota had said, "Okay, we can get you in next week," we'd get a truck out there. Okay, we are a private business. If the state of Minnesota had access to test you in a week, we'll get a truck and an instructor out there. I'm a private business. Can I go buy more trucks? Yes. Can I hire more people? Yes. Can I get more tests out of the state of Minnesota? No. There is a roadblock here, okay? The roadblock is the state of Minnesota, not us. So when you fail this test and you go to Pat and you say, "Pat, I need to get in for another test," and he says it's 4 weeks from now, do not complain to him or me. Do not bitch at Interstate Truck Driving School because you can't get back in for a test for a month. Get in your little car and go down to the state capitol and bitch at them because they're the roadblock, not us, okay? Get on your computer tonight and send an email downtown to your state representatives. You've got a state representative and a state senator for every single one of you, okay? Check this out. Here's what I want you to complain about. If a high school student fails his test, they also are required to wait at least a week. That's a state law or state rule. Everybody has to wait a week to retest, okay? If a high school student fails the test, during the summer, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Driver and Vehicle Services Divisions, pays examiners overtime to work early, work late, and work Saturdays to accommodate teenagers that need a retest. Teenagers. Now, why are teenagers, 16-year-old kids, getting access to services that you and I don't? Because their parents are politically connected. Because their parents are doctors and lawyers and certified public accountants, and they go to political fundraisers. And they know who the state legislators are. They know them by name. And so when Junior can't get in for a test for a month, and school's coming up, and, this attorney is tired of paying his nanny to take his kid to school, he calls downtown and he bitches at a state legislator. And so the state legislators have done something about it. If every single one of you would get on your computers tonight and complain to your state legislators about it, is that fair?
No.
A high school student has more access to a road test than you do. You're trying to earn a living to feed your family. They're high school kids.
And pay taxes and support the state.
And they've got access to a school bus, okay? All right? Okay? Let them take the bus to school. You know how I got to high school when I was a kid, my first year of high school? Honest to God, that's how I used to get. Any remember that? Those days of hitchhiking? Remember that? And you'd actually get picked up. It was real common back in the day. things have changed. Anyway, these flashcards are essential to your success, okay? You must prepare this set of flashcards. Pat is not going to want to schedule you for a test without them. And I sure as heck am not going to send an instructor out for free for a retest if you haven't done that. It's not fair, okay? If you're not willing to do the time and effort to prepare for this thing, I'm not spending my money to enable that. I'm not going to baby you. I'm not going to hold your hand, okay? This is the real world. Put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, and belly up to the bar and let's get her done. And I tell you what, I have so much pride and respect in the people that do this, that put the time and effort to succeed at this. And we see them here all the time, okay? Dennis is out testing today. Man, how much effort has Dennis put into this? Oh my goodness. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Dennis? He's a vet.
That truck for 3 hours by himself practicing his pre-trip yesterday. 3 hours.
You know, we had a gentleman that took a test, I think it was this last Monday, or the Monday before. Maybe it was the Monday before. Anyway, he had come in on Sunday to work on his pre-trip, and then he failed his test the next day. What do you suppose my attitude towards getting him a retest is? 100%. There's no hesitation whatsoever. I didn't make it. Okay, let's get you back out there. I'm behind those people 100%. You show me effort. You spend the time. Show me that you're invested in this, and I got your back. And I'll do everything I possibly can to assist you, and I'm not going to charge you more money, okay? But take it all for granted, don't put the effort in, and I'm going to show the same attitude towards you. Make sense? Water seeks its own level. I will respond to your efforts with mine. And if you're not going to put in 100% effort, then do not expect me to, because I will not do it. And I'll look you right in the eye and tell you why, okay? I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm telling you right now what the deal is. You put in the effort, we'll put in the effort. Think of us as your Himalayan mountain guides. We're going up the mountain together, but I'm not carrying you. I got my pack. I'm climbing. I'm guiding you. I'm assisting you. I'm showing you the way. But I'm not carrying you. Make sense? We have another tool for you to use. That tool is an audio file. Now, I told you that the resource for your learning what to say is the state manual. The state also has the audio file for every single section, including section 10 of the manual. I guess I have to turn it on for it to work. And so what this is going to do is it's reading us this section of the manual. Now, what we've done is we've taken...
During the pre-trip inspection, you must show that the vehicle is safe to drive. You will have to walk around the vehicle and point to or touch each item and explain to the examiner what you are checking and why. You will not have to crawl under the hood or under the vehicle. 10.1. All vehicles. Study the following vehicle parts for the type of vehicle you will be using during the CDL skills tests. You should be able to identify each part and tell the examiner what you are looking for or inspecting. 10.1.1. Engine compartment. Engine off. Leaks and hoses. Look for puddles on the ground. Look for dripping fluids on underside of engine and transmission. Inspect hoses for condition and leaks. Oil level. Indicate where dipstick is located. See that oil level is within safe operation.
All right, you get the point?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what we did, okay? Because we will stop at nothing to help you. Here's what we did. We took that audio and we edited it for Class A and Class B, and we rearranged the sequence so it follows the sequence of your checklist. See, Section 10 of the manual doesn't follow the same order that the checklist does. So we rearranged it so it does. You've all received that via email on your first day, correct?
Correct.
If you haven't received that email, then I need you to go to the front counter when we take our break in a few minutes and make sure that we get that emailed to you. Then I want you to download that on your phone. And then I expect to see you out in the yard practicing with headphones attached, Bluetooth or fobs to your phone. And you're going to be going around the trucks. We have a truck out there every day for you to do this. We use pointer sticks here to point to the components. So I expect to see you out there, headphones into your ears, plugged into your phone, checklist in one hand, pointer stick in your dominant hand, and you're going through the checklist, pointing at the components, making sure you know where they are, and listening to what you have to say. I am absolutely convinced that these audio files are an extremely powerful tool for you to use. As a demonstration of what I'm talking about, complete the following sentence, please. Save big money at
Menards.
You all knew that, didn't you? Anybody in this room didn't know that? Now, did you try to memorize that?
No,
No.
Did you set out to memorize that?
no,
Did you intend to memorize that? But you memorized it. How'd you memorize it?
Because you can see it all or hear it all the time.
yeah.
Okay, that's how you and I function as human beings. Okay? That's incidentally why I believe in the power of positive thinking and positive affirmations. I'm a real believer in that. Just saying. And it's changed my life. Okay? I can't tell you how powerful that is. Use these tools, people. Okay? You have a performance that you have to do successfully. You're going to stand with that checklist in one hand, the pointer stick in your other hand, with a state examiner listening to what you're saying, and you got to get those words out of here someplace, through here, and explain it to them. And it has to be an explanation, okay? Just as an example of what you have to do. Matt, will you do a role play with me? Okay? Give me directions to get to your house, will you?
So you're gonna take 1061 back towards 94 East
How do I get there?
to 94 East. Oh yeah, you're gonna go out the lot, go, I don't know if that connecting road is there to Hardman.
Okay, which way do I go coming out of the lot?
To me, left.
Okay. Do you see where I'm going here? Okay? And thank you for doing this, but as he started out there, it wasn't good enough. Here's what I would expect you to say. All right, the parking lot right here in front, go out here and take a left on that street. I don't know what it is, but the street in front of this place. And that's fine. Okay? And then you said go down to Hardman. Where's Hardman? Well, it's 2 stop signs down. Okay? Approximately 2 blocks. At the second stop sign, there's a railroad track there. At that intersection, you take a right turn. That's Hardman. You see where I'm going here? I'm providing an explanation with some details to it. And that's what these examiners expect you to do based on the information in the manual. So you don't just, like oil level, you don't just point to the dipstick and say, there's the dipstick, pull it out, make sure it's okay. What did the manual tell you about oil level?
Should be above the refill.
Exactly, should be above the refill mark. And before it got into any of that, it said engine what? Off. So you should explain that. With the engine off, there's the dipstick. I'd have to pull that out. And look, there should be oil on it. If there isn't, that's a problem. But the oil should be above the refill mark. An explanation based on the information in the manual. Make sense? How are you going to pull that information out of your head? Now, you know where you live, so that's not a big deal. Okay? But try to give me directions to someplace you don't know exactly where it is. That's going to be a problem, isn't it? So you have to learn this information and be able to pull it out of your head and provide that explanation. You got anything you want to add? Okay. Usually Mark comes back so we can do a little demonstration here, but let me use Pat to do this. Now, again, we're doing this with pointer sticks. We're the only school in the nation that I know of that uses pointer sticks. I don't know of anybody else that uses pointer sticks. But see, your job is to identify where these parts are. And if you do it with your index finger, then there's some ambiguity and confusion. So we're going to eliminate that with the pointer stick, okay? A laser pointer would also work, but the pointer stick works pretty darn good, okay? Yep. So we have we have pointer sticks in every single one of our trucks. So the truck you're going to test in, there is a pointer stick in it, okay? Some people get a little bit, oh, can I bring one with? Yeah, if you want to borrow one, go ahead and bring it with just to make sure you got it. But there are pointer sticks in the truck, okay? So you're going to point at components and then provide the explanation, right?
Right.
So Pat, the examiner, is going to have a checklist also. So he's got a clipboard and a checklist. And his checklist follows the same sequence as yours does. So when you're dealing with any one of these sections, follow that section. But here's what I want to demonstrate. Please do not point at a component and say, okay, well, there's the water pump. I'm going to check to make sure it's securely attached and not leaking. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to touch the water pump with the stick, then turn and look at your examiner and speak to them and make eye contact with them. That's the water pump. I want to make sure it's securely attached, make sure it's not leaking any fluid. You see how he just kind of gave me a nod? You're going to kind of get a body language confirmation that you're doing what you're supposed to do. Okay? So point to the component. That's my alternator right there. Okay? I want to make sure it's securely attached and make sure the wires are securely attached. And now both the water pump and the alternator, those are belt driven. That's one of the belts. I'll make sure the belt is properly tensioned. That's 3/4 inch play according to your manual. I'll make sure the belt's not missing, cracked, frayed, damaged anyway. Coolant level. That's my expansion chamber over there. There's a sight glass on this one. So I look in there to make sure that there's coolant up to the proper level, and I'll make sure everything's securely attached, the cap's on tight, it's not leaking. See what I'm doing here? I'm touching the component and then turning back, looking at my examiner, and having a discussion with them with some eye contact. Make sense? Create a rapport with this person. You're trying to convince this person you know what the heck she's talking about.
When you're going over like the tires and everything on one side, do you have to go to the other side also?
And I'll
or
get to
you
that,
just say-
but no.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll get to that. Now, during this process, the only thing the examiner should say to you is, well, let's demonstrate that. Okay? Front tire, 4/32 tread depth. Wheel, the wheel is not.
You fell
Mark!
today.
Oh, we can work too. The examiner is supposed to prompt you if you're not being thorough enough.
Oh, anything else?
Exactly. Anything else you want to tell me about that tire? So if you hear an examiner say to you, is there anything else you want to tell me about that? That means you haven't told him or her enough about that. There's 5 things you're supposed to mention about the tires, the front tires. 4/32 tread depth, tread not worn, unevenly or damaged, sidewall not damaged, proper inflation pressure checked with an air gauge, valve stem not leaking, and the cap is on. 5 things. So if you mention one and that's it, you won't get credit for it. So that is a prompt. They're supposed to prompt you if you're not being thorough enough with an item. Make sense? Okay? Now that's the only thing they're supposed to say to you. They're not supposed to say anything else. Okay? They're not supposed to ask you anything else. If they do, let me know, because they're not supposed to be doing that. Right? I'm a little concerned that some of these examiners are doing a little bit of freelancing and asking you things that they shouldn't be asking or telling you things they shouldn't be telling you. So if they do anything other than simple prompts, let us know. But also keep this in mind. How many times do you suppose they're going to prompt you, if you're not being thrown out, before they quit prompting you? Once. I'd say 2-3 times. If they're having to prompt you with each thing, they're going to quit doing it because you don't know what you're doing. Okay? You need to know this, where these components are and what you're supposed to say to the level of confidence that you have a command authority over it. I want you to be confident that you know what you're talking about. Would you role play with me? What's your address?
4210 Lake Breeze.
No, it isn't. It's not 4210. What?
4210 Lake Breeze.
No, it's not. Come on, get in my face. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't let what I'm saying knock you off balance. Make sense? Now, one of the things that comes in that causes some confusion here is the location of the air compressor. The air compressor on every test truck we have is on this side of the truck, on this side of the motor. All right? Now, it's in one of two places, and only one of two. It's either here or there. So, first off, it might be right in front of you, at the front of the motor. Easy to see. If it ain't there, it's in the back of the motor, and it's going to be tough to see. All right? I want you to be, if you end up with a truck that has the compressor in the back, you take your stick, put it back there, and go, that's where it is. Okay? And despite the fact you can't see it, be confident that's where it is. And all you need to say is the same thing you'd say when it was up front. I'm checking to make sure it's securely attached, it's not leaking anything. There's two possibilities, air or oil. Okay? You get people that get all kind of, I can't see it, right? Well, I can't see it. Yeah. Well, I can't see it, right? Where's the sun going to be at noon today? Point. Where's it going to be if it's cloudy? You sure?
Mhm.
Can't see it.
You can't see it.
But it's there.
It's there. How certain are you of that?
I know, I can't see it.
Don't vacillate with this stuff, people. If the examiner says, I can't see what you're pointing at, look him right in the eye and you go, you're right. You can't see it. Now, if you want to put it up on a lift in the shop, you can see it, but from here, you can't see it. But I'm telling you, sir, that's where it is. Be confident. Look, you're going to drive a truck, right? You're going to sit up here and drive this thing? Well, act like it. No, you're not. I'm a driver. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. Get where I'm coming from here? And you'll gain that confidence by studying this material and then be able to perform that. Okay? You don't get underneath the vehicle, but on the rear of the truck and on the rear of the trailer, it will require this. You're going to have to get down on your hands and knees to point to some stuff. Why don't they want you getting underneath the truck?
The safety
Because they don't want to
reason.
get underneath the truck.
Exactly.
No, actually, there are examiners that would enjoy that. It's a safety issue. If you bonk yourself in the head, cut yourself open, give yourself a concussion, who's paying for it? You are, because they told you not to do it. Now, if you do that on the job, who pays for it? Work comp insurance. Are you covered by work comp insurance getting in underneath our truck? No. No, you're not an employee of Interstate Truck Driving School. You're not getting underneath our truck. Is when I do an inspection, do I have to get down on my hands and knees at times?
Yes.
That is a part of the job description. So expect that on the rear of the truck, you're going to have to get down on your hands and knees to point to these components. Even with that, you can't necessarily see them. Comments?
Yes, actually. And when you're practicing here, the same thing. There is one person in the room whose name will remain nameless that was here Saturday that I saw underneath a trailer. Please do not do that. I want to look at the keypad. I understand that. We're going to come up with a better solution for you to see that. We don't want anybody getting hurt here.
Okay, but that brings up a really good point too. If you have a question about a component, come to us and we'll come up with a solution for you. Okay? We will come up with a solution for any question you have about these components. That's our job. Okay? So if you have a question, how does this work? Where is this? What does that do? Let us know that. Here's what I do not want you asking me or any of my staff. What am I supposed to say?
Sorry, guys.
Where is the information that tells you what to say? In the manual and on that audio file.
The flashcards.
And the flashcards. But that's where the material comes from, not me. Don't expect me to repeat something that I've already got for you on an audio file. Because then there's nothing missed in the translation here. You're getting dead accurate information by listening to that audio file. Get that? Okay? And who's outside this morning?
Sam will be shortly.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break for 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, those of you who have been here previously on a Wednesday, please report outside. Those of you who are attending Wednesday for the first time, please report back in this room. I'll see you in 10 minutes.